Hello everybody, in this video we're going to move on to the recipes section. And so this is actually, I guess, a little less complicated than the previous section, arguably, but there are still some definite tricks to it that can be difficult. Let's get started by writing out the HTML structure. And this is definitely a place where students will struggle with figuring out an appropriate HTML structure for it. Here's our recipes section. Let's open that up. Um, the first couple elements are probably fairly obvious, right? We need, not there, back to the brief. We need a recipes title element and a recipes subtitle element. And so we're going to want to use not an H1 here because there should only be one H1 per page. So we'll use an H2, recipes double underscore title. And for the subtitle, we're going to use a P tag. I've mentioned that it is preferable to use a paragraph tag for a subtitle. I'll just type this in. But then what to do with this stuff? Well, check out how we try to decompose it for you. There's a recipes videos element, and what that is supposed to indicate is it's the entire thing is recipes videos. There's recipes iframe, that's number 4. Well, that would be the individual iframe elements. So there would be 2 recipes iframe elements. Then there's the recipes video caption element, and there should be 2 of those also. So this would be one caption, and this would be another caption. You might think that it would be there would be 4 of them or something like that, but really there should just be 2 captions. And this is how you can mark this up. So start with the recipes videos element. And I'm just going to use divs here. You could definitely argue that ULs and LIs would be preferable, but that would make it potentially a little more complicated. No, probably not more complicated. You know what? I'm just going to go with ULs because I do think that that's better in this case. So recipes videos is a UL. Inside a UL, you always need to have LIs. That's what needs to be in there. You might wonder, well, how's that going to work? Because we need the iframes inside here. Well, yes, the iframes need to go in the LIs. Because we've discussed this before. Anytime you want to treat elements as if they were a group, like here, we have a group of elements, and we have this element. We needed to wrap these in a div. Well, same here. If we want to treat these as a group, meaning the iframe plus the caption needs to be treated as a group. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to arrange it properly. But treating it as a group makes arranging the elements very trivial. So what I mean by that is here, let's just create an iframe with the recipes iframe class and a paragraph tag with the recipes video caption class. And I'll just type title and time for now and copy that and stick that in here. Let's go and see what this looks like back in the browser. The iframe is invisible. So let's make the iframe visible before we go any further. To do that, we need to go to YouTube and go to share, embed. We want the embed code. Copy the whole thing and paste it in place of these iframes that I just added. And I guess I might as well Do it for the other one also. And note that this URL has watch in it, but the URLs that we're using inside the embed code say embed. They're different URLs. The watch URL would not work the same. Okay, now back to browser. Okay, so they're not in the right position yet, but what we have here, let's close all this mess that's inside the iframe. Mm, What we have here now is just a list element with two LIs. So like I said, it's trivial to arrange two elements inside a container, really. So what we've done is we have turned what might at first seem like a rather tricky task to arrange all these elements with respect to each other into something that's much more tractable. We've already done this before. How do we make these appear in a row? We use Flexbox on the parent. How do we center them? We can use justify content center. How do we put space between them? Uh, can you go away there? Why is that? There we are. Sorry. How do we put some space between them? Well, we could just use gap. I think it's 100 pixels. And we've already gone pretty far along how we need to make the layout. There are details that we haven't taken care of yet. In particular, this element, the time, is supposed to be over here, and the dots are still there, and we haven't done the margins or anything like that. But the basic layout of this section is already completed simply by making good use of the markup and a few Flexbox properties. So that's good. That's a good start. Let's add these styles down at the bottom. Dot recipes double underscore videos. All right. Now, what else do we need to do in this section? We've got the elements in place. We've got the embeds in place. Let's set the background color and the font color. The background image I'm not going to bother with yet. Often I won't do that until the end because it's likely not to look right until you have all the rest of the elements in place. So for the recipes section, color white, FFF, and then background color, this. All right. One thing you might notice is, do you see this little bit of white space right here? What's that doing? Well, that's this default margin. And what will happen is the margin on a child element can, in some situations, stick out from the parent class. So this is why it's not always a good idea to try and use margin between a child and its parent, because in various circumstances, it's not going to do what you want. So we're going to want to remove the margins. Well, remove the top margin at least. Margin 0. But we are going to need to add some margins to these elements. What do we need? We need 100 pixels here. We can't use margin on this element, right? So let's use padding, just like we've done before. In fact, padding 100 pixels, we can do padding 80 pixels on the side, padding 215 pixels on the bottom. Then we also need to set the margins. And in this case, we can use margin bottom on the title and subtitle elements. the numbers. I'll do that so we can see the numbers. So the padding, 100 pixels, 80 pixels, 215 pixels. We don't actually need 80 pixels on this side, but it's there. It's okay. All right. Then the margins. This is similar to the task that we had before in the header, where we needed to account for the default margins as well. So we don't want any margin on top of either of these elements. We'll just go with bottom margins on them. So margin 0, 0, 24 pixels, and then margin 0, 0, 80 pixels. Back to the browser. So something appears to not be right here. Wait, refresh the page. Okay, I just needed to refresh the page for some reason. I'm not sure why. Okay, looking pretty good. Font styles are still not done. You can handle that on your own. You already know how to remove the dots. So really the only other thing that I want to focus on here, remember, remove the dots, remove the default margins from the UL, all that sort of stuff. But the thing that I want to focus on in the remaining time is these things, the captions, because they're rather tricky, but not too tricky, really. And you've already learned the technique that we need to use. You've already used it up here, basically. If you want to style bits of text differently from one another, you wrap one or more of them in span tags. So here, we go here, find these elements, and technically we could just, I believe, wrap one of them in a span tag and not bother about the other one. But in this case, I find that I prefer symmetry. So here, like so, and we'll do the same thing here. No changes so far, but what we have is two elements inside each of the p tags. So what can we do? Well, we can turn the p tags into a flex container and use flexbox styles to arrange the children, just like we've done with a number of different things. So recipes, video caption, display flex, flex, justify content, space between. Oh, there. I needed to refresh it again. I'm not sure why it's requiring me to refresh, but so you can see there it is. They're on different sides. So this is a very powerful technique. Basically just Flexbox. Flexbox does so many things. Okay, that's all that I have to show you. Don't forget, there are a lot of details that have been omitted, and you should go through the brief carefully and make the necessary updates before you move on. And join me again when we start on project stage 3.